understand that we're trying to describe an infinite God with our own vocabulary. And we don't have words in our vocabulary that can describe the activities of God except in a vocabulary that we understand, and thus it uses the word repent, but God doesn't repent. He knew from the beginning that man was going to fail, and he knew the plan of redemption from the foundations of the earth. And so, looking at it from a human standpoint, it would seem that God changed, but he doesn't change. And yet, seeing the evil of man, God has decided and knew that it would be, but he was now going to destroy man from off the face of the earth as a lesson for man throughout his generations. The Lord said, "I will destroy man, whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping things, the fowls of the air, for it repents me that I have made them." But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Now these are the generations of Noah. He was a just man. He was complete in his generation. And Noah walked with God. We read that of Enoch a few generations earlier. Enoch walked with God. Noah walked with God in the midst of a corrupt and evil world, walking with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the earth also was corrupt before God. The earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt. And all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said to Noah, "The end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. So make an ark of gopher wood. You'll make rooms in the ark, and you shall pitch it within and without with pitch. And this is the fashion which thou shalt make it. The length will be 450 feet. The breadth will be 75 feet, and the height of it 45 feet, 30 cubits or 45 feet. The size of the ark would be 95,700 square feet of space inside. It would hold the volume of 20 basketball courts. And so that Adam, in gathering the animals, would gather major species. He wouldn't gather every type of cat, every type of dog, but just the major species into the ark that they might survive the great flood that God is going to send upon the earth. So God describes the window that you shall make in the ark, and it shall be 18 inches, and you'll finish it above the door of the ark, and you shall set it in the midst thereof. With the lower, second, and third floors shall you make it. And behold, even I will bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life from under heaven. And everything that is in the earth shall die. But with thee I will establish my covenant, and you shall come into the ark, you and your sons and their wives, and every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort you shall bring into the ark to keep them alive with thee, and they shall be male and female, and the fowls after their kind, the cattle after their kind, or the species, and every creeping thing of the earth after his kind." You wonder why he didn't leave fleas off the ark and flies and so forth, but unfortunately, they must have been in the fur of some of the animals. And take unto thee all of the food that is eaten, that is the storage of food, and thou shalt gather it to thee, and it shall be for food for you and for them. And thus Noah did according to all that commanded him, so he did. This is a pretty good-sized ship, this ark, 450 feet by the width of it 75 feet and the height 45 feet. This 6-to-1 ratio is the ideal ratio for a large ship. In our U.S. Navy, you'll find that this 6-to-1, the width being 1/6 of the length is really perfect size. How did Noah know that? Well, God knew, and he told him how to make it. The Lord said to Noah, "Come, and all of your house into the ark, for I have seen that you are righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean beast you shall take 2 by 7s, male and his female, and the beasts that are not clean by 2, male and his female." The clean and the unclean beast will be described in the book of Exodus as God is laying down the animals that would be edible and those that would not be edible. And the fowls also of the air by the 7s, and the male and the female, to keep the seed alive upon the face of all the earth. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. And every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth. And Noah did according to all that the Lord commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters were upon the earth. He was about 500 years old when God commanded him to build the ark. They were about 100 years in building it. Now, you say, how could 4 fellows build such a large ship in 100 years? Well, I imagine you could do quite a bit in 100 years, but no doubt they had hired help too in the building of this large ark or ship. So Noah did according to what the Lord commanded him, and he was 600 years old. And Noah went in, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him into the ark because of the waters of the flood. And of the clean beasts and the beasts that were not clean, of the fowls and everything that creeps upon the earth, they went by 2 and 2 unto Noah into the ark. In other words, God, it seemed, planted into their minds the fact that a calamity was coming, and thus they came instinctively. Noah didn't have to go out and gather them all. They came instinctively into the ark. It is very interesting that animals seem to have some kind of an instinct concerning natural calamities that take place. They can oftentimes predict a coming earthquake by the way that the animals are behaving. Before Mount Pelée, the volcano exploded, there was a shepherd who was predicting a great calamity because the sheep were so restless, and he said they never act like this, and people sort of laughed at him until Mount Pelée blew its top. But God put it in. This business of God planting into animals certain kinds of understanding. We've mentioned before the golden plover, a little bird that likes to live in Hawaii, and you can't blame him for that. And yet it doesn't really like to have its young in Hawaii.